season is always the slowest time of the year for news, and so I figured once the UFO story sort of took up those first few days of the new year, and then business as usual picked up again after, the 2nd or the 3rd of January, that people would kind of forget about it. And that's what's happening. The only people who are left talking about it are the UFO people, and to go back to what we were talking about earlier, they're fighting with each other over whether it was real or not, whether there was something to it or not.
Yeah.
So, it's like a big swamp, and they just got their foot stuck in another big swamp hole, and now they're fighting over the O'Hare story, and they'll probably be fighting over it for the better part of the next few months at least.
Sure. I don't know if you heard about this, but the what is called the Phoenix Lights 2. I think this was this past Tuesday, a sighting again over Phoenix. Have you heard about this?
I heard a little bit about it. The only thing my cynical nature rears its ugly head again on this one, I guess, and I guess that to me would tell me that, I don't know, maybe the black budget military is messing with the heads of the UFO people or whatever by recreating the incident just to sort of stick it in our face or something. I mean,
and what is it? 10 years to the day, almost, I think, exactly.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I would appreciate it if the extraterrestrials or time travelers or interdimensional beings had that sort of sense of history and wanted to come back and commemorate the event with us. But at the same time, there haven't been too many crashes at Roswell since July 7th, 1947.
Yeah.
I don't sense that, they're too keen on ufological history like we are. So, I'd put it towards something along the lines of someone on Earth messing with us.
You mentioned Roswell. Let me ask you that. I mean, do you have any, if you were to speak about sightings and so forth, or I guess crash or whatever, do you have any kind of favorite report or sighting that kind of proves it to you in that sense?
I don't really have a favorite sighting per se. If I was like forced to pin one down that I really enjoy, I think that would have to be the Rendlesham Forest case in England. Only because Peter Robbins, I really have a lot of respect for him, and he was one of the very first people who got me interested in ufology and sort of opened the door for me to become a part of the UFO scene. And he was on the show and just gave an amazing interview. And sort of like the style of Binnall in America is, I'll ask the guest a question and then I'll let them talk for as long as they want. And Peter talked for like a good 40 minutes straight about the Rendlesham story and it really took us from the beginning to the end on it, and it was just fascinating. So I think probably I really enjoy that as a story the most, and I think that's the most fun UFO story out there, and the most my favorite, I guess. I mean, I wouldn't call it the best evidence. I mean, there's other people out there who could do a much better job of presenting to you the best UFO cases, but that's probably my personal favorite.
Sure.
Just because of the sentimental, I guess, connections to the case.
Oh, okay. I mean, another thing that's kind of interesting, I think, is the. I mean, this is certainly not a recent thing. I mean, this has been going on since the 50s. I'm talking, of course, about the Hollywood or the film industry kind of involvement, I guess, in the field of the ET question or the ufology or UFO sightings in that sense. But I mean, do you have any idea about that? Do you think that this have been bad or been good to kind of open up people to the idea, or do you think that they just spin it in ridiculous ways? Got any idea about because the main bulk of the movies out there today is portray some kind of aggressive ETs taking over the planet and so forth. What's your idea on it?
Well, I think in the long run it's for the best, because it's educating people that chances are we're not alone, and that ETs or whatever they are may show up, and so I think it's been good for that sort of thing, indoctrination of people into realizing that ETs might be real. But I don't know. Is the aggressive alien a product of the filmmakers and our time, and everyone's freaked out about terrorism and that kind of thing? Or
yeah.
I find it hard to believe that there's any sort of mandate from any sort of shadowy figure or powers that be to produce certain styles of programs catered around the agenda of the aliens.
Yeah.
I think it's just the way that things get made and the way people feel at the time.
So I mean, I've heard about a little, hints about that there is an ongoing, that they're trying to present this as an kind of this fake alien threat, that this is like the...
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, and that's
Yeah.
the theory that the alien threat may be used as some sort of barometer for a one-world government and that
Sure.
sort of thing. And
Sure.
I mean, there's plenty of reason to think that there could be some credence to that. It sounds kind of interesting, and it would be really cool if it happened, even though it would be probably traumatic as all hell. It would be a lot of fun. But I don't. I think it's important then that the people like you and me and the people who are listening to this program and the researchers keep a level head if something goes down.
Sure.
Yeah. and are ready to sort of try and extrapolate what it all means, and not just try to stay ahead of what the government might be doing in that sort of sense.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people lost their heads after 9/11, and now a lot of people are kind of coming back down to earth, and they're like, wait a minute, something's amiss about this whole thing. So if a UFO blew up the White House or something, I think we need the people who have been studying UFOs for a long time to be like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
it goes against everything we know about UFOs so far.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something else going on here.
Yeah, that's very important, I think, and just as you say, to be able to know the field and know the subject so good that you actually can take it easy and relax and view the evidence, so to speak, for what it is, and don't get carried away. But I mean, if we are to kind of change the subject a little bit and go into talking about your radio show again, is there any person that you would like to have on, either if you could choose, them being dead or alive, whatever, any person you'd like to have on the show?
What's that?
Anyone that you'd like to have on the show that you haven't had on yet?
For dead people, Tesla would be cool to have on.
Yeah.
Alive, I would really love to interview Bob Dylan, but I don't know if he's down with showing up on Binnall of America Audio. Part of the fun about having the show and having your own show is you can kind of interview anyone you want. There's no one that
Sure.
tells me I can't have a guest on.
Yeah.
And I grew up a big wrestling fan, so every year we're going to try and make it a tradition where at least we'll have one episode where we'll talk about professional wrestling, and it has nothing to do with the esoteric, and I apologize to my esoteric radio fans, but it's my program and I can kind of do what I want, and we're going to have a fun pop culture style episode.
Sure. Yeah.
As far as people in the esoteric field that I'd like to have on, I've kind of noticed that as the show's gotten better and bigger and more people are listening and that kind of thing, it's not as hard as it used to be to get people on the show. And I tip my cap to all the people who've been on the show. I really appreciate it. A lot of these people could say no, they don't have to appear on Binnall America Audio. They're busy. And when we first started up, we were banging down doors, and like I said, Jim Morris, his book was kind of what got me started on this whole thing, and he was the first guest we had on Binnall America Audio season 1, because in a lot of ways, I try to layer the program with stuff like that, where, especially this season with the music we use, the music means something. If you're listening to the program, we don't just throw the music out there because we want a cool song as the intro. There's something in there. We try to hide little Easter eggs and that kind of thing.
Sure, yeah.
Living esoteric people, I'd like to interview Art Bell. George Norrie would be cool to have on the show, only because they have a tremendous amount of power in the esoteric world.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of issues with those programs, and I don't think you ever really get a chance to hear them answer those critiques. So I think that would be a fascinating interview.
Yeah, sure.
And same goes with somebody like Jeff Rentz. Obviously, I would love to interview Jeff Rentz. Alex Jones would be really cool to have on the program.
Yeah.
David Icke. I like, especially, some of these people that are really well known, like superstars. You definitely want to talk to those people. Obviously, every radio show that does the esoteric, unless they're, sort of pompous or something, they want to talk to these people. They're big names. They're great people.
Sure. Yeah.
Obscure names, I would really like to talk to Bill Moore, who was one of the first people to discover the Roswell story with Stan Friedman, and sort of dropped out of ufology in a blaze of mystery and intrigue. I think it would be a fascinating interview. International ufologists, I really would like to talk to a French ufologist, or we have Farah Yerdozu coming on at the end of February talking about Turkish ufology, and I've interviewed Paul Harris talking about Italian ufology. I find international ufology to be totally fascinating.
Yeah.
So those sort of people, Walt Andrus would be a great guest to have on the program. He founded MUFON, he was the second president. I believe T. Townsend Brown founded MUFON, and then Walt Andrus took over shortly thereafter. And he was the head of MUFON for like 30 years or something like that. He's seen it all, so he'd be fascinating to talk to.
Yeah.
There's tons of people. I mean, the well for potential Binnall America audio guests will hopefully never run dry.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally agree. I mean, I don't know. Do you know if Jack Valet is still alive, by the way?
Oh, yes. I was going to say Jack Valet, too.
Okay.
Yeah, he would definitely be someone who I would want on the show, too. And obviously, if you're talking about if you could interview dead people, then you definitely want to talk to guys like J. Allen Hynek and James E. McDonald and, all those classic ufologists that really broke the ground for people like me who are, I'd say, at this point, I might be like a third-generation ufologist as far as people who've been in the field go, maybe even fourth generation. So you definitely want to talk to those people that were there from the beginning, and that's one of the great things I like about talking to somebody like Stan Friedman, who's been in the field for so long. He really has a wealth of historical perspective on the people that are populating this field.
Yeah.
And to sort of throw back to what I had said earlier about Peter Robbins and how great he was, he really left me with one of the greatest sentiments that really stuck with me and lasted a long time with Binnall America, and sort of is, I wouldn't say it's like our credo or anything like that, but it's definitely one of the tenets that we sort of go by, and that's that, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something like, we can spend all day talking about these races that are coming here from all over the galaxy and interdimensions and all these exotic races, but at the end of the day, we're left with one race, the human race, and that's really what it all comes down to. And you can't ever lose sight of that forest for the trees, or however it goes.
I mean, if you are, do you mean when you're paraphrasing that, you mean that it is we who are, it doesn't matter, if whatever or whoever comes here to visit us or help us or whatever, I guess, but it is up to us to kind of take our own destiny in our hands. Is that what you're saying here, or?
Yeah, and it's the people. The people are more fascinating than the stories and their journeys.
Yeah.
And their passion for the subjects.
Yeah.
And their discoveries. That's what, and how they got into it, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I liken Binnall America Audio to Inside the Actor's Studio sometimes. In that, we want to pull that curtain back and really break that fourth wall, like I said, of, if we're having a UFO guest on, that's great, but I want to talk about, what it's been like for them as a ufologist. For instance, we had John Greenwald on. I want to talk to him about what it was like to be a young ufologist breaking in the field, and to have somebody like Melinda Leslie on and talk about what it's like to be a female in the world of ufology and that kind of thing. It's about the people. It's about their stories.
Yeah. Interesting. By the way, have you ever had Richard Hoagland on your show?
No, I have not had Richard Hoagland on the show. I'm a big fan of Richard Hoagland, despite what some people may think or guess, I guess, from the content of Binnall America. We definitely poke fun at Richard Hoagland, I think only because, as I said, you can't really ignore Coast to Coast AM, and Richard Hoagland's an amazingly huge part of Coast to Coast AM.
Yeah. And
he's such an enormously entertaining character that to not acknowledge the entertaining brilliance of Richard Hoagland would be a crime, I think. So we definitely, I would love to talk to Richard Hoagland and have him on the show. I've never really approached him to be on the show. I'm afraid he thinks I hate him or something. I'm afraid he hates me. I don't know, but we dig Richard Hoagland. We think he's cool.
Oh, okay.
And I just think he shouldn't be on Coast to Coast like 60 times a year. I don't think it's good for him. I don't think it's good in any fashion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's, that's my right, I guess, as a listener to have that opinion. And I think I've had people write to me that disagree with my take on guests and that kind of thing, so that's fine. I mean, I'm just one person. I'm just one person's opinion.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
all it is.
Sure. That's the advantage also today with the internet, of course, that you can, if you got some technical knowledge about it, you can, easily create your own radio show and do